everybody.
Hi, Dee.
Hi.
Hope you had a nice long weekend. Very nice, yes. Very good. Well, let me do some introductions. Of course, Dee Mills is next to me here up in Sydney. And then we have Kim, who is in our Cebu office in the Philippines. Hiya, Kim. And of course, Yakov Smart, who is in New Zealand, Queenstown currently, but from America, and our special guest today. And I need to explain a little bit about how we got connected. And we only really had a conversation on Friday, but it was through your amazing operations manager, Liz, who was through another contact that said, you guys need to talk. And I'm so excited that you're here today because you're an expert in LinkedIn and you're going to share some of your tips with us. So welcome.
Hey, good to be here. Thank you for having me.
We're very, very excited. So we're going to jump into our questions that, these are my questions probably, but everybody will have the same questions. Tell us a little bit about your elevated pitch so we can know a little bit about you.
My elevator pitch. Well, I'm somebody who, I'm not a big fan of elevator pitches, but I will say it's all about a new way, just like the slide says, actually, all about a new way of using LinkedIn to attract ideal clients and referrals.
Fantastic. Because there's no one way, right, to use LinkedIn.
Right. And this is about an innovative way. You know, when I wrote the book a few years ago, it's called Disrupting LinkedIn. It's an innovative way to use LinkedIn specifically for business owners in making key connections and growing their businesses.
Right, fantastic. So we're on the same page about that, totally. But it's always interesting with every guest that we have to find out how they use it differently to how we do. So our first question, Kim, if you wouldn't mind going to our little question sheet there, thank you, slide. So what makes LinkedIn to you, such an important tool?
Yeah, it comes down to understanding the who, understanding who's utilizing the platform and what an opportunity it is. Where on LinkedIn right now, worldwide, there's about 600 million plus users, and the average household income of a LinkedIn user happens to be $115,000, and that's worldwide. That's the average household income. There's also about 60 million direct decision makers on LinkedIn and organizations in the B2B sense, and about 40 million direct influencers in those organizations. So that pool of people, these are the people that as business owners we want to be in front of, who can make the decision to work with us. And instead, rather than going through other social media like Facebook and Instagram that can be valuable, but are full of people who are there for entertainment purposes, people are on LinkedIn to make professional connections, develop themselves, and grow their businesses. So the context and the ability and the opportunity to reach people directly on their cell phones as that trusted advisor provides a tremendous opportunity for business owners. And with a lot of the recent changes, it's become even more of a gold mine for people like us to use when it comes to growing our businesses.
Yeah. And so do you use other avenues as well as LinkedIn?
Yeah, I personally do. I use some other social media, but primarily it is LinkedIn. And I'm also big, and Sandy, you and I were talking about this when we met too, combining offline and online, and how valuable it is to take relationships off of LinkedIn into real business relationships.
Absolutely. And I think that's the one thing people get a little bit stuck on, right?
Yeah, definitely.
That part. Yeah. Okay. So most people don't just wake up one day and say they're going to, be a LinkedIn expert. So how did you start using LinkedIn in your business? What was your sort of, backstory?
Yeah, well, it's funny because I stumbled onto it several years ago. You have to understand, I've been on social media since pretty much the 8th grade. I've been on social media for a while. I started way back in the day with MySpace. And, LinkedIn was a little bit of a different experience for me because I kept hearing about it as a college student. And I went to school in the Southeast United States in rural Georgia. And I kept feeling this pressure to join LinkedIn and use it for a job search. And it's something that didn't really appeal to me. Yeah, when I got onto LinkedIn midway through university, what I found was that high-level business owners, executives, C-level people were willing to connect with me from all over the country. And I started to see it as an avenue for making more of those key connections. Now, when I first started using it to grow business, you have to fast forward. I lived in a city that most people will probably be familiar with called Las Vegas. It's a place that's internationally recognized for many, many things.
Yep.
And when I was out in Vegas, I was selling software. And in software sales, I was doing a lot of cold calling. I was picking up the phone, making cold calls again and again and again and again. It was draining the life out of me. I was literally hitting a wall. And so I turned to LinkedIn once again out of necessity as a way to make those key business connections and get in front of the right decision makers with the message that they want to find out more about the software. And I started having success. And I went out networking one day in Vegas, and I would nonchalantly mention some of the types of success that I was having on LinkedIn. And I had business owners look at me kind of funny. And they said to me, "You mean to tell me this dusty old resume that sort of sits there for me, you mean to tell me I can actually use it to generate new business?" And I said, "Well, if I'm doing it, I can probably show you how." So I started picking up clients almost accidentally and turning this into a business and recognizing that I had discovered essentially a new way of using LinkedIn and turning this into a business full time. And that was several years ago. Since doing that, I authored the book, Disrupting LinkedIn, the definitive guide to generating leads, receiving referrals, attracting high-end clients through marketing on LinkedIn. And since authoring that book several years ago, I've been very fortunate to do trainings for audiences of business owners across the United States and now across the world on this new way of using LinkedIn to get clients and generate actual ROI from social media. And these days, and I know we're going to talk about the Melbourne event a little bit later, but these days I'm traveling and connecting with more and more business owners internationally and showing people how LinkedIn can not only be a great tool for growing a business, it can be a tool for overcoming some of the biggest business challenges that business owners are facing on a daily basis.
Yeah, well, that's really interesting because I would think it's a similar thing in our businesses, right, Dee? We've had similar experience. We didn't sort of start this whole thing because we just kept getting people asking us how, but how are you doing it? How are you getting business from LinkedIn? Yeah. And we're like, well, we're not LinkedIn experts, and we're not. Right? But we do get a lot of our business from LinkedIn, and it has changed a lot. And particularly my generation of business owners, because I'm just like a year or two older than you, obviously, right? Just one or two. You know, they were sort of saying, but how do you do this, Sandy? Like, what is LinkedIn? And why is my salesperson sitting on LinkedIn all day? Like, they should be out, because that was the old way of doing business, right? But you can make the connection and then go out and set up the appointment, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's a mistake that a lot of business owners make, is they rely on, instead of going out there and prospecting or marketing, they think just by being on LinkedIn and the more time that they spend, it's necessarily going to lead to new business. And that's not necessarily the case. There's not a direct correlation. I'm of the approach of being more intentional and having much more of a methodology that actually gets results rather than just throwing a bunch of time at it.
Yeah, because it's got to be effective, right, what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what are some of the biggest mistakes business owners make? I mean, is that one of them? They think if they post every day, then the business will come to them?
Yeah, that's a big mistake, and that falls under the category of lacking intentionality, not being intentional enough to start with the key outcome, and instead just posting and hoping, right? That's what we see a lot of business owners doing. So it's not having an approach, not knowing who it is that they want to reach on LinkedIn, how to reach them, and more importantly, how to get that audience to respond. Because the other end of that spectrum, there are business owners out there who are trying to market on LinkedIn, who are coming up with long, spammy, salesy messages that are just
people
getting
turn off.
Yeah, completely turned off, completely ignored, and losing all credibility, all happening at the same time. So a lot of that is happening as well. And then the other big mistake is thinking that LinkedIn can only be used for strictly B2B marketing to corporate, when in reality, a lot of our best clients, the people that we work with, are in B2C type of businesses where they can use LinkedIn to locate referral sources and build key strategic partnerships. So it's understanding how to attain that outcome that they're looking for in their business. And also the other big mistake is having a LinkedIn profile that doesn't pop, that doesn't stand out, that looks very much like a commodity, like every other person in your business, that looks too resume-esque instead of a marketing asset that showcases the value that you provide and shows people that you really get them.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's sort of how we met, right? really, through your operations manager, Liz, you know, looking for someone to partner with in Melbourne. And we're like, oh yeah, we'd love to talk about this. This is what we do, don't we, Dee?
Yes.
You know, and how people can use LinkedIn differently. So LinkedIn's been going through some, you know, changes. So can you tell us a little bit about what or what us as business owners need to know about the changes?
Yeah, and there's a lot of key features on LinkedIn that are changing as well. And this all started with a major event a couple years ago when Microsoft purchased LinkedIn for $26.2 billion. This was, I think, back in 2017, if I remember correctly, or even 2016. And they completely revamped the platforms as purchasing it. They completely reinvented the way that LinkedIn was experienced, because now they want more people to spend time on LinkedIn. They want more companies to advertise on LinkedIn, and they want to make it a much more social platform rather than something that's stuffy and professional that looks like a resume. So the key changes that have recently been announced, and this is something that LinkedIn has actually put out there, their goal, they want to go from 600 million plus users right now to 2.2 billion users by the end of 2022. So it's a major change, major increase in the user base, and people are spending more and more time on LinkedIn and paying more and more attention. Fastest growing age group on LinkedIn, 25 to 35-year-olds. Perception of 25 to 35-year-olds. Yeah, perception of 25 to 35-year-olds experiencing LinkedIn versus experiencing Facebook is they've been so inundated by advertising on Facebook and those types of same old marketing messages, where on LinkedIn, it's that professional context to build that trusted relationship and be able to make that key connection. There's also some great features that LinkedIn has recently revamped that are working really well for business owners, like LinkedIn groups. There's now a lot of new powerful functionalities for building a community on LinkedIn and becoming seen as the thought leader. Video content on LinkedIn, the way video is streamed, the way content posting is experienced on LinkedIn is changing as well. LinkedIn Live is coming out as well. That's going to be a big thing when it comes to content marketing, is being able to do things like leave voice messages in the direct messages. That's another new feature that's
I've had a few people actually do that. Yeah. Have you've liked it when people have done that for you, Dee, too?
Yeah. And I use it myself a bit as well. Not I don't 100% utilize it, but when I do, I think it's well received because it's a voice on the other end. So I actually use it more often when I'm communicating with someone overseas as opposed to Australia.
Yeah, and there's a different context to that as well, right? And it's leaving an impression. It's a way to cut through the noise and being concise in what you say. So all these new features, though, they're geared towards a single outcome, to having LinkedIn be more of a relationship building platform, and to make it easier for people who are like us, who are business owners, who want to build relationships that lead to new business, to be able to utilize these features and actually get those relationships moving towards either a sale or a referral relationship, or something where they have a meeting or an opportunity to present to the right decision maker in an organization.
Yeah.
And sometimes it can be just a partnership or a collaboration as well.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I'm interested, if there was one thing, like business owners, and I think you'll agree, obviously you're coming to Melbourne, you're doing the event, and I'm going to be there. So, I'm really excited about listening to your presentation or workshop for the day. But I'm interested, one thing that business owners could do, because they're time poor, what's one thing that they could do on LinkedIn that you could tell us that will make a difference for their business? I'm putting you on the spot now, you know that, don't you?
Yeah.
Because I like to do that. Just throw you out of your comfort zone.
You know what? I'll give you two things.
Oh, fantastic. See, well versed.
Two things. And one thing is going to be, the other thing is going to be a great segue into the event as well. So the first thing is figuring out the right who. Making sure that you're talking with the right people in your profile, your content, and in direct messaging. And the key to do that is to build your network strategically and build a targeted list using LinkedIn search features. And there's a number of different ways to do that, which we are going to be covering at the Discovery Day coming up next week. And the other key thing is automation, which we'll also be covering at the Discovery Day as well, where you could automate a lot of the initial legwork and initial outreach in a way that still feels authentic. But it's something where once this system is up and running, and I always talk about this as a system, It's 15 to 20 minutes a day to be able to automatically go out there and make those key connections. And that's something that we're also going to be covering, what that methodology is for making that happen at the Discovery Day coming up next week.
And can you tell us a little bit more about what they're going, so people who are going to come along next week, obviously they're going to get to network as well. So it's human to human, not me sitting in my own home, but it's good to get a group of people together because that's always exciting as well. So what else are they going to get when they come and come to your workshop? What are they going to walk away with?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's going to be an in-person event in Melbourne. If we could go to the next slide, because I think the URL.
Yep. Oh yes, sorry, I forgot to ask him. Thank you.
Yeah. Yep. And if we could get that, we can even get the URL in the chat box for everybody too. But if you go to linkedin.us/Discovery Day, you're going to be able to see what the event entails. It's coming up on Friday the 7th out in Melbourne. And it's a one-day event. Like Sandy said, it's going to be in person from about 9 a.m. till about 4 p.m. And I'm going to show you, first of all, we're going to talk about the foundations, the things that you need to do as a business owner to be able to start utilizing LinkedIn in a way that generates new business and attracts the clients and referrals that you're looking for. So we're going to start with the foundations. We're going to start with the mistakes to avoid. We're going to start to talk about the recent changes happening on LinkedIn. And then for everybody who attends, we're going to have what's called a hot seat opportunity. So the best way for me to teach this methodology, the best way for me to present this content is to have actual business owners who are in the room come up there, and we're going to go through how these strategies are going to work on planet Earth. And
wow. So it's an engaging workshop, which I've got to tell you, I prefer.
It's highly interactive. I think nobody wants to attend something where a speaker is droning on for 8 hours behind a podium. I guarantee you it's going to be entertaining. It's going to be insightful. Fantastic. And people often leave saying that it's just opened their eyes to a whole new way of using LinkedIn that actually works and gets results. So that's coming up on February 7th next week. If you go to that URL, linkleads.us/Discovery Day, you can register. You can actually get a free ticket using that URL. All you have to do is put down a fully refundable $47 seat deposit. And just so everybody understands, the way that works is once you register on the website, you'll get the link with all the event information, itinerary, all that good stuff. And then when you show up to the event, you're going to have an option of either being fully reimbursed for that seat deposit, or it's going to go towards fighting the fires happening out there in Australia. So you're going to
donate that money, absolutely, which is fantastic. Thank you so much. But I will agree with you, because as a business owner, sometimes we go, oh, free event, and we put it down, and then we go, oh yeah, I didn't pay anything for it. So, something comes up, but we want people to come, because otherwise you're stopping someone else being able to be at your wonderful event, which, Dee would be coming down for, but she's off to Brazil or something, aren't you?
Yes, I'm going over to Brazil for Rio Carnival, ticking that off my bucket list with my sister.
But I'll definitely be there. Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate all of the information you shared today. And guess what, Dee? We kept to time, because it's only 18 minutes past, because I always get into trouble.
Can I just make sure that there's no one who is in the audience that has a question? And if you do, guys, you've basically got 1 minute to quickly type it in the chat. If you've got any burning questions.
While we're waiting, I have one that I didn't ask the other day. But I'm interested to know, when you work with a business, or when you work with a business, is it a particular type of business that you work with?
Right, so it's typically a smaller business. So it's typically not like a huge corporation, but a smaller business, usually between 1 and 5 employees, oftentimes solopreneurs. Somebody who's a service-based business. So somebody who's very clear on the product or service that they're offering, and also the type of decision maker, the types of people that they'd like to reach. And oftentimes somebody who has a decision maker who they want to reach, who's difficult to get a hold of. It's not necessarily somebody you would meet networking. It's not necessarily somebody who would click on your Facebook ad. And that's where the power of LinkedIn comes in. It's a way to get in front of these people in a way that's authentic, that builds the relationship, and that moves towards doing business together.
Yeah, absolutely. So very good. So they are the most of the people that we would connect with as well. So that's fantastic. I'm looking forward to meeting you in person on the 7th. And it is in the city as well, because it's, was it the university that you're holding it? Yep. So all the information's on the website. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. Dee, thanks for being with us, considering your challenges today.
Yes.
And Kim, as always, thank you for doing the slides. You're a star.
You're welcome.
Lovely. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. We'll be ending the webinar now. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.